the spray foam's done, or at least what I paid them to do, they're gone, and I'm not dealing with them anymore. So I'm halfway done with finishing their job, I think. So we're going to talk a few things and what I'm going to do to fix it. So with the spray foam, I paid for 3 inches of closed cell throughout. Spray foam has an R value of about R7 per inch, so that would give me about an R21 throughout. Now normally in your ceiling attic space, you're looking for around R like 30 to 60. R30's here because we're a warm climate. On the walls, like R13 really is good. If you can get up to R19, that's great. This should have been R21. But what you really get with spray foam, even more than the R value, which is how insulation's measured, should have said that first, is an air seal. So the big problem with the way most buildings are built and with fiberglass insulation is the fiberglass isn't installed properly. So you end up with a lot of drafty spots. That's why if you've driven by new construction, you often see the zip system, which is the sheathing that goes on the outside of the house, and then they have that tape. And what they're trying to do is make a tight house. Or another thing you see often is the house wrap. So they'll come with and like wrap the house like a present after they sheath it. And the idea is trying to create an air and vapor barrier so you don't get drafts moving in and out of the house, because who cares what most of the insulation level is of your building if you have holes that the air can just easily escape through, you know, so your hot air can go out or cold air can come in or whatever. This is a 3 1/4 inch nail. So if I hold just the tip, you know, that gives me about 3 inches, just enough for my fingers. There's a lot of this, a lot of this throughout here, and I'm not happy about that. This isn't too bad because also you can see, oh, well, you're in the low spot. Go up a little bit, that's 3 inches. Yeah, you're right. What's just frustrating though is I did pay a lot of money to have 3 inches throughout, and they came with a gauge and kept checking, yet there's still a lot of this. What's really frustrating though is there are several spaces where, because they had a lot of equipment problems, they sprayed and then they shuffled the 2 things that I left in the building because I had the building completely pressure washed and cleaned, and they moved and then they never came back. Right here again, same situation. We're probably about 2.5. Okay, we have the air seal though. That's the main thing, is having an air seal. As long as we have an air seal, if I'm a little lacking on R value, it sucks because I didn't get what I paid for. That's fine. This is a whole other thing though. That's how much spray foam I have. One of the issues with that is closed cell spray foam is a vapor barrier once it's 1.5 inches. That's maybe 3/4. Also, this is on the floor, very low. As we all know, hot air rises, cold air falls. That's why you insulate the attic more heavily, because normally your greatest temperature differential throughout a year is in the winter, where you know, even in a low or warm climate area like I'm in, where when we have lows, they're 30s, maybe 20s occasionally. If we're trying to warm up to say 70 degrees to be comfortable, we're looking at a 50 or 40 to 50 degree differential. On the coldest days, we're looking at like a 60 degree differential. Whereas on our hottest days, when say it's 100, 105, to get down to 70, which would be comfortable, and really probably more like 75, we're only looking at a 30 degree differential. So that's why you insulate more on the attic. However, that cold air falls, and we spend a lot more of the year hot, which means when my air conditioner is running, the coldest air will be sitting on the bottom. And if that's all the insulation I have, it becomes a little moot how much insulation I have everywhere on the bottom when I have this 12-foot by 30-inch, 2.5-foot area that all my cold air can just vacate the building. So yeah, so what I did is I went and bought some fiberglass, and where there are really thin areas, as we do the walling, I'll be laying fiberglass. So when we do the walling video and you see me adding fiberglass in spots, this is why. A big point to ask whenever you're doing any spray foam, I didn't ask this question because from everything I'd read, this is what all the professionals do. They should bring a 1-component and 2-component foam, 1 component being like great stuff to get all the areas where their big gun can't. And it's kind of like painting. You come, you cut in all the tight areas, and then you spray the rest. They didn't do that. The other thing you'll probably notice is, well, what's up with that orange foam? I thought you said they didn't bring any 1 component. They didn't. I used 11 big cans of great stuff, because remember we talked about the air seal, and that's where I'm really upset about this. This is one of the purlins that the metal attaches to. As you can see, this is very thin. So this big bead here, that's where I could have just showed you metal, because when they sprayed like this, and they never sprayed like that to actually get an air seal. Same thing on the floor here. Despite masking the floor and then pulling the plastic back and then overspraying and not scraping, even though they brought scrapers and said that was part of their job, they didn't actually get a tight seal in their concrete. And I back up to a huge pasture and field, which I'm very happy is on the property. But so field mice are a thing, and bugs, and I want to make sure, you know, not just for air, but also that bugs can't get in and out. So everywhere there were any gaps between where they sprayed in the concrete, I came back with the great stuff and hit that as well. But getting back to it, yeah, I'm going to show you a bunch of clips I took with my cell phone as I was going and doing the great stuff of how many places I could see bare metal, or even if not bare metal, actual daylight, like holes straight outside, because this was a horse barn, so that just kind of helped vent it, because this was a vented building. But going to a tight building, that's all supposed to go away, but it didn't. Orange is where I've been working. Haven't got my ladder up, but yeah, look, you can see the metal back there. If I can see the metal, this is not a sealed building, and that's still a pretty easy spot to get to. And then behind these rim joist kind of boards, up here you can see the wood behind it in some of the spots. Can't get there with the camera, but you can see the metal. Also right there where that board ties in, you can see the mending plate on the truss. I shouldn't see a mending plate through 3 inches of foam. I can actually see daylight up here. I don't think light should be coming through there if that was sealed. Looks like I missed a spot. So up here, there's another spot, but I'm gonna find more of those. Lighting's not great, but that's all metal. And what gets me is if you could spray all this, you could have sprayed that. Same thing there. I can still see bare metal kind of that mending plate. Now, speaking of getting that air seal and vapor lock and things where it was going to be a problem, one of the things I asked about was the rim joists around the top of the building. I knew that was just going to be a tight spot for anybody. So besides where the trusses meet, just in that whole gap up there, in a lot of places I can see the exterior rim joists, because obviously they couldn't get their gun in there, even though they told me they were going to, and that there'd be 3 inches of foam. There's not, so that's another big place I'm going to be adding fiberglass. So moral of the story here, what I'm trying to say is, if you're considering spray foam, I'll walk you through a few trouble spots in my building. So when you're talking with contractors, make sure you ask these specific questions, because that wouldn't make any sense to put a bunch of 1-component foam there, because that'd be a ton. If they can't get it with a 2-component gun, then what they need to do, I'm going to end up adding fiberglass. What would have been more ideal would get some 2-inch rigid foam board, put rigid foam board behind it, and then probably use 1 component to like just glue that in place and seal it, because then it'd have 2 inches of rigid foam, creates a vapor barrier, decent R value. Yeah, that's, and either I would have done that ahead of time. If you're looking, you could do that ahead of time, or maybe that's something they provide, you know, when they do the whole thing, if your contractor works with multiple types of insulation. Of course, I'm primarily concerned about cooling in the summer, like I talked about, because this is a very warm climate. I can always put on, you know, a hat or a jacket in here if it's a little cool. That's fine. But I mean, when it's hot, you can be naked, it'd still be hot. There's just no fix. So I want it to stay cool in the summer. But I also don't want to burn through a bunch of money in the winter because all my hot air is evacuating. Also, I don't want to deal with leaks. I have a metal roof, which is, you know, a very durable, very long-lasting roof. I have some polycarb panels. A few people mentioned replacing those first. In hindsight, I do wish I'd done that. I talked in the first conversation I had with my contractor. He's like, you know, that's only going to be an issue if you're walking on it, because once we put 3 inches of foam on there, it's going to be super solid. It's going to be backed, so you're not really going to have to worry about leaks penetrating or anything. Problem is I didn't get 3 inches of foam, and they did such a crappy job that I could straight see the metal and gaps between the purlins, and there was a bunch of air gaps. So this is where I spent a ton of time coming through and sealing, and you can just see how many places I could either like go straight through to the roof or we're just barely covered. Now, one of the reasons a lot of that happened on the ceiling is overhead work sucks. So when they had their scaffold and they were working this way, going down the slope. So it's something to ask your contractor about, is after you spray that way, are you gonna turn around and go the other way? Because when Robbie, my cameraman, was over there looking, because that orange foam sticks out, it's really obvious to see. If that was flush, you wouldn't be able to notice it from the other side. Problem is they never turned around and looked this way. Because when I was standing on the other side of the building, if you looked at this roof, or the ceiling, it looked pretty good. But then you stood over here and you'd be like, purlin, metal, polycarb, purlin, metal. So either talk to them about that ahead of time, or at least, go QC them. Try to be around. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here the whole time that they were here. And, just kind of watch that stuff and be like, hey, you guys gonna turn around and go the other way and make sure you close all those gaps? Good advice. That said, right, I understand how that can happen and that was a miserable part of the job. What's been very frustrating to me, though, is places like up here where they were clearly able to spray. They just chose not to spray enough and not to get everywhere, and so I had to use a lot of foam to close very large gaps that they sprayed near or sprayed just over, but not everything that they were supposed to. So being a small business, I wanted to support another small business. I didn't go with any of the huge contractors that are like multi-state, regional. One of the issues with that is where I am, I had a hard time even finding a spray foam contractor that would come out and do the job that serviced this area. Of the ones that would answer the phone, I just kept hearing, you're too far out, you're out of my area, don't go there. However, right, the first day that they didn't show up, when they said they were gonna show up, I actually was able to get another carrier to come out and give me a quote. They said that they were still working a few weeks out. The reason I didn't call them initially, even though they're a big area provider, is I wasn't listed in their service area because they said they don't service Mississippi, but they did have an office in Collierville, a town right across the border, not too far away. And I was like, hey, if they have an office there, surely they'll come down here, even though they don't say Mississippi. So I just gave them a call. So when you're looking for contractors, don't be afraid to just call anyways, even if their website or whatever they have available doesn't say if you're covered. Just go ahead and take the time to ask. So on that note, I did want to support someone local, but if you run a small business, a few things about how I run this business, my business, I was very disappointed in dealing with them. First of all, I was lied to several times, which I very much don't appreciate. I was given a timeline that wasn't adhered to. So they told me this would probably be a one-day job, but they booked 2 because I was cautioned, hey, we do have equipment problems, this is complicated. So, we give 2 days, so that way if we got to go grab a part or overnight something, we can. I was like, okay, cool. Then a few hours after they were supposed to be here the first day, I was told, oh, something broke. The next time we can be out there is in a week and a half. That was very frustrating because as you watch some of my previous videos, I didn't take a day off for like 3 or 4 weeks because I needed to have this ready for them on time, and I did. It was tough. I spent a lot of money making that happen, and then they didn't show up. And it's very confusing because then I also found out that one of their suppliers is just across the road a few miles away. So I don't know why they had to delay a week and a half if they had 2 days set, because they could have just came a little late, got that part, still been here that day, started spraying and sprayed the next day. So I don't know what happened there. But anyways, they did come a week and a half later, the day before Thanksgiving, and started spraying. They had a lot of problems with their equipment because they had some parts that they knew were faulty that they didn't want to replace, which led to substandard product. They used over twice as much product as they thought they should because they didn't want to fix their stuff. My values are under promise and over deliver. So, right, if I think I'm working a month out, I'll tell someone their job's going to be 2 months out, just to always give me buffer. Take care of your equipment, right? Your equipment is what keeps you running in most businesses. So if I have to take a pay cut or not buy something or deprive myself to make sure my equipment stays running, I do that because my equipment is my business. And if I don't run dull blades trying to save $10. I have stacks of new blades. So when I need a new blade, I put that on there. Critical things that can stop my business, I have duplicates of. I have like 3 cameras. I have multiple microphones because the last thing I need is to tell a sponsor, oh, hey, I was gonna have that video out for you, but my camera died. It's like, no, I have backup cameras. I have backup microphones. And also I have other people relying on me because I have people who work for me. So I can't just be like, oh, hey, you're out of work for a few days because this critically important thing to my business, I have no plan for if it breaks, when that's a high possibility. So yeah, just tell the truth, under promise, over deliver, take care of your equipment, know your equipment, and and don't do half-ass work. Deliver on what you say you're gonna do, right? I was told I was gonna get 3 inches of foam. I didn't get 3 inches of foam. And then at the end, they argued with me about getting 3 inches of foam. Well, one guy did. There was a crew. Some of them were very understanding. Unfortunately, the guy I dealt with most was not very understanding, and he's the one that kept lying to me. But yeah, this is what it is. I'm gonna make it work. I'm not happy about it. I hope it doesn't end up biting me in the long term. It's just very frustrating because I had a plan. I should be in the shop working now, but what was supposed to be a one-day job turned into 5 visits and was done 2 weeks late, and they didn't meet the standard, and it's taking me multiple days of work and more money out of my pocket to almost get to what I was told I was paying for, which is a 3 inches foam I didn't get, an air seal, which I didn't get, and they were supposed to scrape everything. So we're about to start working on the walling. One of the things I need to do before we can is come to all these posts, scrape them all so I can put it up. They're supposed to scrape the floor. I want to get all the floor scraped before I start getting walls up. And one last thing I hadn't showed you yet are the doors. Part of the reason the quote came where it did is when I gave him the initial estimates for the building, it was 3 inches everywhere, but I knew that this was actually going to be 1.5 inches, and we just talk about that because that's all that can fit here. So he's like, oh yeah, this will be 1.5 inches, that's fine. So we'll spray it, and then we'll use a big scraper, and we'll just scrape it flush. Clearly it's not scraped flush. Clearly it's not even 1.5 inches. Then they did me the favor, of course they'd already packed up when they showed me this, they said, oh, to make sure you can still do this lock, we left this whole area totally bare. But I'm not even using these locks. I have new locks and all this is gonna come out. I just haven't taken this off yet. But what was really funny to me about this is they left a huge square undone. They probably could close the door and forgot about it. But the 4 other locks, they literally froze in foam, and I had to chisel out to open my doors. So that doesn't make any sense to me. And this is another deal that really gets me because, where it was really low from the ribs, I tried to float it, but I'm probably gonna end up having to just buy a spray foam pack and fill this up because it's so uneven, I can't just get 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch foam to just smooth it out and then put my, whatever I'm gonna put over it. It's too shallow for fiberglass. The only real option I have is just if I want to get, the most amount of insulation on these doors I can, which I really want to because these are pretty big and are gonna be a huge, loss on heat exchange, is to just get some froth packs and spray it myself and scrape it. So yeah, that's where we are. Anyways, I don't wanna just complain. I know that's a lot of what this video is. So I apologize for that. I'm trying to add some value to it though, because I think there are some valuable points here of, if you're running a business, be someone people want to keep doing business with and want to refer. And if you're trying to do spray foam more specifically and you're talking to contractors, ask about 1 component and 2 component, ask about trouble spots, be there QCing, and if you ever do get shorted by someone, I'm not happy about this. This is the first time I've ever refused to pay full price, and I didn't pay full price of what was quoted because what I was quoted didn't happen. But if you are stuck in that situation, don't be afraid to negotiate when you have a contract and someone doesn't hold up to their end of the contract. Then you can either attempt to force them to do the rest of the work, or you change your side of it. I didn't trust that they would do any better. and they'd already packed up, and I was done dealing with them and didn't want them hanging around for a week continuing to botch the job. So instead, we just negotiated a new price to offset the fact of all the work left for me to do that I thought I was paying them to do. Anyway, this probably wasn't inspiring, but I hope you learned something. Maybe you're entertained. I totally get now why so many people are like, oh, it's so hard to find a good contractor. Does anyone know a good contractor? It can be tough. But anyways, the barn's coming along great. We're gonna have the walling going up soon. The electric is here, so that's awesome. I was actually recording this just because I'm about to start putting up the walling. I've tried to give myself a week or two to kind of calm down from it. So that's where we are. Thank you very much. Till next time, make time to make something.